So I'm going to go ahead. And this is October 21st, 2015. And this is a meeting with high school teachers from Broward County. And today we're going to talk about the second phase of the EPICS design cycle. And we're also going to talk about assessments and how the assessments are built into this. Randy, if you have a question, just type it in and we'll go from there. And then Rhonda, if you have a question, just shout it out and we'll get into this. And Angie, same way. Just
okay, perfect.
We want this to be interactive, so I don't want to talk the whole time. So, okay, the specification. Last week you were talking about the project identification phase. And through the project identification phase, you're working on making sure that the students and they understand what could possibly be a solution to a problem. So they've kind of identified a problem, and then they've kind of identified who would be the best recipients of the time and energy and resources that it would take to present the project. So this is the next phase is specification. So what they're doing is they're taking all of their information and their initial prototype, and they're building their prototype to figure out what could happen, not necessarily how, but what. So what could happen? So in the specification phase, let me get into that. It's important for the students to understand the needs within the community and the service learning project. And when we talked about service learning at the workshop, do you remember how service learning there are some certain things that have to happen for it to be service learning? Can anybody kind of chime in and remember what that is?
They have to do something for the community? Is that part of it?
Yeah. So the students are doing something for the community, so the community is getting something out of it. What else?
Well, and students have to learn something, gain some kind of insight either into the community or into insight into more engineering or problem solving.
Yes, so the students have to get something out of it, and it's not merely just maybe those non-tangible, but they have to align with standards so that they're learning academically as well as those value-added parts such as critical thinking and problem solving, those non-tangibles. So that's a huge part that goes along with service learning rather than just volunteerism. So that's important. But also in this phase, they are looking at a need and what could happen. They're also looking at what is available also out there in the market. So if they're trying to develop like a wheelchair ramp for someone in the community, is there a wheelchair ramp that could meet that need that they wouldn't have to design? So they're looking to see if there is prior art, if there is state-of-the-art that's already out there. So that's a part of this that's important that they're looking at. They also are looking at specifications. So what that means is that their project, whatever it is, would have smaller parts that they may have to break down. Like in one school, they're talking about doing a butterfly garden. The butterfly garden may have an educational component, and so then that educational component would be broken down into smaller pieces that would need to happen. So they need to figure out those specifications for the project. They also, so that's another one. And they need to be able to figure out, can it be measurable? What are the specifications and how would they test it and measure it? So that's a big part of this phase. They also are working with their PERT chart and their Gantt chart. Does anybody remember what the PERT chart does from last week?
Oh, I remember the name.
I don't remember which one was the PERT chart, but I know what a Gantt chart is.
Yeah, Randy has it as a timeline, which is exactly right. The Gantt chart in particular is a timeline, and it's showing all of the the pieces that have to happen and how they work. The PERT chart is that critical pathway. So it's the part that shows what has to happen first, what happens second, but what happens second may be in tandem with other tasks that happen. So the PERT chart could be that, that critical pathway. But again, you don't have to do both. And maybe you don't want to do either one. If you just want to do a timeline, it's okay, or a calendar. It's
So
fine.
what's the difference between the two? I'm a little confused. I don't know why I don't remember from last week.
Let me see if I got the document here.
Is one more task-oriented and the other one's date-oriented?
Right. So if you look at my screen, this is a PERT chart. And so it starts off with your start, and this one just has the red being the critical pathway. And I didn't put tasks or, you know, the names of things. I probably should have given an example. But task 1 and 2 could maybe be done in tandem, and tasks 3 and 4 and 7 maybe be done in tandem. But whatever task this is has to happen. And then task 6 is this way, and then it goes up here and then to finish. So these are tasks that have to happen. Now with the Gantt chart, let me see if I can find, I guess I don't have the Gantt chart, which is surprising. I don't know why I don't have the Gantt chart up there. The Gantt chart, and I can escape and get into, find one. Sorry, I should have thought about this, but that's okay. See how junky my desktop is. So this is an example of the Gantt chart.
Mine doesn't look any better.
Do what? Good. Well, that makes me feel better. So if you look at the Gantt chart here, I'm gonna.
I don't see anything, so I don't get to have the laugh.
Okay, that's fine. The Gantt chart has along the side, it has different designations. Is this an individual task or a group task? Is it a milestone, which means is this something that absolutely has to happen for the project to be completed? Who is responsible and the status of it? So the next cell has the task to be completed. And Rhonda, if you wanted to look at this, this is in 119 on your webpage. It's lesson 119.
Oh, okay.
1.
I'll look at it.
Okay, and then it has your weeks. So let's say that you have a task to be completed that student A is doing, say, the Gantt chart. So the Gantt chart is going to take place in 1 through 6. They could fill that in, and then you'd know that. And so the responsibility party may be JT. You know, so this is a way of getting the task down, and so the kids know how things have to move. So it's a way for them to, who's going to be in charge of the budget? So next one may be the budget. So that may be Sam. Sam's in charge of the budget. And we're going to start the budget in week 3, and it's going to go all the way through 16. It could. And so it would be a different way of looking at it. So do you see how this could, how a Gantt chart could be helpful? And the thing about the Gantt chart is fluid. So it's never actually done until the project's done, because the kids are always going to be updating and changing and making sure they've added in pieces that has to happen, because once they've got their specifications, so let's say in week 6, there is, let's say Joe, or let's say Sarah is in charge of
virtual training. So it's like with the professor produced. So yeah. So my I just muted it. My microphone is live.
How are we doing? Okay, Rhonda, did you have a question? Okay, Angie, are you okay with seeing all that? And Randy?
Yes. Sorry about that. No, I do not have a question.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
I know what a Gantt chart is. couldn't remember what a PERT one was.
That's fine. And, you know, it helps me to kind of look at things too and just to see if this is something that'd be useful.
Now with the PERT chart, are you able to add more tasks?
Oh, yeah. With the PERT chart, what you can do is, remember, I think we talked about this at the workshop, is that if you use Poplet, you can take the Poplet, and once you've made a Poplet, if it's Teacher Toolbox, I can't remember which thing it is in there, but there is a document that will show kids how to make a Poplet, and it's an online, a web, a mind map type of thing. So you can continue to add and develop this. And the PERT chart, yes, could very easily be done this way. Or, you know, it might be one of those things that is a stagnant piece. The Gantt chart definitely changes. The PERT chart may be just what are your major tasks and how that has to be done. It depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
Okay? And if you find these cumbersome, then, you know, you don't have to use them. But another thing about management with your students is you may want to have one student of your group in charge of this.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I was thinking as well, especially since I have officers, that one of my officers might become responsible for this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. So,
actually,
go ahead.
I know the others couldn't see it, but you filling in the chart and like dragging the line out made that chart make a lot more sense to me than it did in the one-day training by just looking at the chart.
Sure, great, very good. Well, I'm glad. You know, you never know what people need or how it works, but sure. So just for the people that are kind of listening, Rhonda, what we were talking about was how you fill in the different weeks so that we know that, like, Sam was taking care of the PERT chart from, or the Gantt chart from week 3 through 6. And so you just drag across it and fill in those spaces so that you know what he's responsible for and what weeks he's responsible for it. So that's what we were doing here just a minute ago. Okay?
Were you directing that at me? I'm sorry. Did you say Rhonda?
Yeah, I did say Rhonda.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Okay. Because I know you can't see what we were doing, so I just wanted to make sure that you did kind of see what we were working on. Another. Yeah. Okay, Rhonda, you were buffering. Can you say that again?
I don't think I didn't say. I think I just said that I'll take a look at the lessons.
Okay. Great. Another document is that benchmarking prior art, and so it's just a document where the kids could use it, and it may be one of those things that they put up in their Google Docs, and then they all work on it together, and they could all work on it together, depending on, you know, everybody looking at possible products. And so that's something that could be done up there on Google Docs or shared between them or however. So, and then the one other document that you might see on the screen, hopefully you're seeing my screen.
Thank you, guys.
So you can see the specifications and requirements are on that document. Another artifact is at the end of 2 is the project checklist. And so this helps the students to be able to make sure that they're moving along through the process. So in this document, the project leader, the teacher, and the project partner all kind of come together and go through this. So it might be something that you send to the project partner saying that we've done this, this is what we believe, and it's editable. So there may be a place where they send a PERT chart or the Gantt chart and how it's going to be, however you want to share the information with the stakeholders, fine. So that's kind of just going through the process and an approval checklist. So does that make sense about that piece? I guess so.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to also kind of go through some of the assessments that are available and are built into the curriculum so that you kind of understand how you can grade and how you can assess the student's learning. So I think we talked about formative and summative assessment, and I'm real big on formative. I have a hard time with students getting tested, but they never are able to see their scores or see, maybe not even the scores make a difference, but feedback, getting feedback about what they've done. So in the curriculum, the assessment is used for the students to guide their projects so that they're moving forward. With the assessments, with project-based assessments, it's a balancing act between what the individuals are attaining, what the team is able to accomplish, and then those value-added skills that are those 21st century skills, the active participation, the metacognition, the problem solving and critical thinking. And all of those pieces kind of come together so that the students are able to create something or to design and develop a project that actually will improve the life of someone. And so these are just some of the pieces of that go into it. With this, how you measure it, is that the individuals, their notebooks could be assessed, and there are checklists for the notebooks. There is conferences that you can use that would be through your gates at the end of each of the different phases. There's a gate, which is a presentation where the students are presenting where they are and how they are moving through their project and how they view that this will be able to be accomplished. Observations are where the teachers are observing how the students are moving, how they are working in a team, how they are problem solving and thinking, critically thinking about the process and the problem to create the engineered project. And then how students reflect on their work. As far as teams, there is the project documentation that happens. There are the deliverables, which might be the prototypes, and the project artifacts, which would be the testing and on the prototypes. And then there could be a website, which would be really nice, to be able to host all of their, and to be able to post all of their documentation for it. So these are just ways that things go. Great. I don't know if you heard that. I had a huge fire engine going by my house. And then the individual artifacts, they have their project, their notebooks, rubrics, peer evaluations, and final reflection. So I'm just kind of moving through them, but there are these built in. And then for the project artifacts, they have their demonstrations, their completed projects, their design review, which is at the very end, and their project evaluation through rubrics. So those are some of those things. I wanted to show you some of the forms and function that go along with the assessments. So there are checklists, there's rubrics, there's the observations, student reflections, project evaluations, individual evaluations, peer reviews, and individual evaluations of presentations. So if you remember right, we talked about the gates and how they're like milestones for the students to be able to go through their projects. This is where the students, a lot of the assessments are happening so that the students are being able to use the feedback they're getting so they can modify their timelines, adapt their projects, get more information and feedback from peers and from teachers, from the maybe experts within their community. So those are all parts that are built into the work. And I think formative assessments, the rubrics, the narratives, observations, and presentations. On this document, this is a document, again, that is editable, and it was created on Rubistar, where it has the statements about the reflections of their observations of the community, and they write up a narrative about their community. This could be used as an English language arts grade, has their opening statement, the supporting their demographic statement, evidence or examples that they have about the needs within the community and why they're determining that this underrepresented or this part of the community should be the stakeholder, and then the pieces of set and structure, and then how they reflect. So this is an observation rubric. Any questions about this observation rubric?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
No,
And
I'm good, but I'll look at it.
Sure. And this is in 1.17, if you want to look at that document, Rhonda. And again, if you find these things too cumbersome and you don't want to use them, you don't have to. It's just that I wanted it to be there so that if you needed it and you wanted it, you had it. Also, at the end of every lesson, there is an exit slip. Do any of you use exit slips? No?
I don't on a regular basis, but when I did the teamwork one, I used
at the beginning. Yeah, I think that's something I kind of tend to forget about.
Yeah.
I'll certainly use it again.
Yeah, and I know how classes get away from them, from me. I know that. That's one of when I was observing and working with our new TAP evaluation system. I knew that was going to be a real Achilles heel for me because I don't always do a good job of time management. That's one of the hardest things I think in teaching, because you get into the teaching and you get into the learning that's happening, and it's hard to maybe cut someone off when they have a good idea or a good thought. That's the hard part. So I understand the reflective part, but if you can just give yourself and give your students 5 minutes at the end of the period, and I know that that's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but it gives them a chance to kind of bring into their mind what happened. And so it doesn't just kind of flying out there, kind of anchors it back into their memory a little bit. And these exit slips help to do that. So every lesson has the exit slip. Rhonda, did you have a comment about the exit slips?
No, I think the thing that we did last year was we kind of forgot about using them after a while, and you're right, it's a time management thing, so I'd like to kind of do that again. Yeah. I do believe that reflection does help them, so I agree with you.
It is. It's just a hard piece because you get caught up in just trying to get things done, and it's hard to remember that the kids need time to process. They really do. If they don't process, they won't remember. So it's a big part of that. In every presentation that they do, they evaluate themselves. So there is an evaluation of the gate. So it's how do you think, what was the strongest aspect of their presentation? And why did they think it was good? And what was the weakest aspect of their presentation? And why do you think that it didn't go as well? And how could you improve? So also then the students as peers can evaluate each other and then give feedback to other people on other teams. Now you may not want to do this all the time because this can be really time consuming. So it may be one of those things where, and also if you have multiple projects going on at the same time, not all of the students are going, and not all the teams are going to get to the gate at the same time. So you probably don't want to take class time to do that. It may be one of those things where the students do it out of class and then they just present it to you. Or if you want to, we could set up a time and they could present it to me, or present it to Charisse, or one of our other EPICS people, or an EPICS student. So it's just a thought that if you'd like some feedback from somebody here at Purdue, we can do that. So it's something to think about. Okay? So going on,
I know I should know this, but when it says gate 4, what is the gate referring to?
The gate is, if you think about our EPICS design cycle, between each of the phases, there is a gate. And this is done in industry too. It is a way, it's kind of like a milestone. It's a way to check progress, to make sure that you haven't missed something so that you can move through the cycle and know that you're on track.
Are the gates what we wrote out on that sheet of paper on the one-day training?
Yes, well, the gates that you got the student gates. You got a guide, a student guide, and each of you got all 5 of those student guides for each one of the gates. So what a gate is, like I said, is if you think about, like, say, we're in the specifications phase we're talking about today. So in that gate, before they can move to the next phase, which is where they're doing the detailed or their detail or conceptual design, they will need to have spelled out what are the things that are going to happen, what are the specifications for who they're making their project for. They're figuring out who the stakeholder is. They are figuring out what prior art has happened, what state of the art is already in place. They're doing all of those pieces so that they have that information ready to be able to move into and have made a prototype for their project. It may not be a working prototype. It may be just straws and paper clips, but it is something that they can get information and they can use to start beginning the process of how they're going to design it. Does that make sense what a gate is? Yes? No? Maybe so?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, Angie, you still with us? Okay, good. Okay, so we're all kind of good on what the gates are and what the importance of it is. I had a, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just said, oh, yeah.
Okay. I had a guy in Arizona that we were talking through this and this process, and he was an amateur inventor, and we'd gone through this whole process about the gates and what happens at each phase and what should happen. And he said, you know, if I'd known this back when I was doing my first prototype, he said it would have saved me so much time, because he got to certain phases of it, then he had to go back and rethink some of these pieces. And they may still have to, but it is a way for them to walk through the process. They may have to always go back and figure out, okay, well, I didn't quite get that piece, so they may have to go back and look at prior art or look at more art. You know, it's not necessarily linear. It is cyclic, but also continually going back to getting information from the stakeholders. Okay? All right, I'm going to keep going. Stop me if you want, if we have questions. At the end of the project, there is a summative evaluation where the project is evaluated by the students, and again, this can be changed and editable, so you can put in different ways that you think it should be evaluated. They also, as a group, they're making this, they're also talking about who was in charge of what piece and where the documentation is for it. So they have all of that information down on this document. Then they also, as a group, have to defend the grade that they believe they should be getting on this overarching project. So they defend, and they say why they think that this is the right grade. And then there's a discussion that happens between teacher and you, and the students, so that they know what is happening, and there's no question. So it's just a kind of a clean-cut evaluation of the project. The individual evaluation looks very similar. Again, they have to defend the grade that they get. They tell what they were responsible for, how well they did the job that they were supposed to do, and how well they supported the work as a team. So they go through this. Again, if you find this cumbersome, use your own. You don't have to, but I think it's important to evaluate in some way as a summative. Also, it's an important way for them to just be able to see their accomplishments. Okay. Any questions about that summative assessment?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, got it.
Here's another one. This is a peer evaluation. So they evaluate each other on their team. So collaboration, how well each person collaborated, their quality of work, use of resources, their controlling their own learning, working with others, and time management. And this was submitted by Janet Membrino out in Xavier. This is her rubric. Again, if you want to change this for yourselves, you can do that. So this is in 4. Okay. And the last one is a checklist for the notebooks. So documentation is an essential part of projects. We're finding that now in the project that we're working on with Purdue people. It has the evaluations. Oh yeah, we didn't have a lot of good documentation for one of the projects, and so they're almost having to reinvent it, redesign it because of the documentation. But if their notebooks are good, it should help to make sure that the documentation is there so they can move to, if it has to be redesigned, they've got it. There's evidence of it all. Back when I was teaching, there was a catchphrase that we used with our Indiana Science Initiative that if it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. So it's one of those things, if you can't find the documentation for it, then did it happen? Did it happen at all? Can you defend what you did? So a checklist is kind of an important part of that, their notebooks. Okay. Any questions? Do you have any questions about any of this that we talked about? Any questions about how you're implementing or how you're starting your projects? No?
I feel like I'm a little bit behind, but it's okay. We'll catch up.
Don't feel that way. Don't feel that way. A lot of schools everybody's in a different place. Some schools have not started yet. It's okay. And some schools, like one school, started last spring with some of the identification pieces, and then they're working on the rest of it. They're starting to do specifications right now. So it's very interesting how everybody kind of works through this at their own pace. So there is no right or wrong on this. So don't feel that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't really started yet, besides the fact that we have some ideas, and I've done some of the teamwork part of the epics, but we haven't started the project yet.
That's fine. That's fine. You know, a lot of it is groundwork where and you might start pulling out where other people, do you have your teams yet, Angie?
No, not yet. Hopefully next week we're going to meet with the lady with the different projects, and then we'll form the teams.
Okay, that's fine. And that's great. What they can do is they can start doing some of that basic identification. Have you thought about what you might want to do as far as projects? I haven't heard anything of what you're thinking.
We know they're going to work with the ESC department, and she has a couple of, I saw last week, projects that she would like done, like a wheelchair accessible garden, wheelchair accessible picnic tables, because most of our students sit outside, but there's no picnic tables for them. Great. And then there's something else. They make smoothies for the teachers that we can buy.
Okay.
And some of the kids have difficulties pressing the buttons on the blender to make the smoothies. And so I haven't gotten any more details than that, but she would like us to come up with a mechanism to help them press the buttons.
Are you thinking about trying all of these or just trying one of them?
I don't know.
Start small. Start small.
Maybe, to be honest, either I'm thinking of maybe the because I have like 23 kids in the class, and then they're talking about maybe doing an after-school thing too. So I may have like one group doing the picnic table and one group doing the blender part. I find the garden the most intimidating because I myself don't understand how the garden. I can build the box, but I don't understand what goes in the box.
Well, you don't have to. That's the nice part about this. It's that it's your project, kids. What do you think? You know. So.
Right. But I did have. I took the forms. Well, it's funny. I was actually grading one. But like where they did the different. Which one was this one? The code of conduct and the cooperation.
Oh yeah. Is that the that's the debate carousel?
Notebook.
Okay. Yeah, that's the debate carousel, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Good.
I was grading a couple of them earlier, so I'm trying to get them used to doing like they did some of the epics.
Great.
Beginning stuff there. And how to do engineering notebook is difficult.
They don't want to do it. You know, being honest, they really don't. I mean, who does? But it's an essential piece of just making them better students and the masters of their own learning. If they don't have that, they can't go back and remember what they did. It's almost impossible. Their brains are stuck on what they're going to do Saturday night. It's not on epics, to be honest. I mean, they're kids. But it helps them to organize their thoughts, to write it down. So, good job sticking to it. Randy says, I like the idea of the students self-critique. Yeah, I agree. Because that's the way that they learn how they can make themselves better and how it can move forward. Okay. Well, I don't know if I don't have any more questions or thoughts for you. Next week, what we're going to talk about is the conceptual and detailed design. So that's what we're going to talk about next week, and teaming. So we're going to talk about those two things. And then the last week, we're just going to kind of talk through what you're thinking about as far as your projects. And another thing I've done with another group was kind of walk through the curriculum and how each piece could be folded into the other so that you could have different kids working on different lessons where it doesn't actually have to be taught as a lesson. It's more about the documentation that happens. So we can talk through that and do that if you want. It's whatever works for you. Rhonda, did you have something you wanted to add? No?
Okay. Well, I was going to just tell Angie I can email her. I can email Angie some local garden resources.
Oh, okay.
I'll do that. But yeah, no, I'm just listening, taking it all in, and thank you so much.
Well, great. I hope that this helps you guys, and remember, we're always here.
Car parked in the faculty lot. If you could come and move it to the exterior of the lot, the band starts rehearsal here in about 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
So band rehearsal. All right. Thank you,
Did you hear that? I tried to mute it. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, well, we'll see you guys next week. If you have any questions in the meantime, you know where you can find me. You can chat with me on the webpage. If you have a question about what's going on there, you can email me. So, you know, I'm always checking my email. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Bye, Randy. Talk to you guys later. All right. Bye-bye.